Hey everyone, Pem here. I'm doing a little epilogue video here for the Skyrim Let's Play, and this was prompted actually by the comments that you guys left on the very last episode of my Enig Skyrim Let's Play. I got a number of comments that had questions attached to them, and I wanted to address them, and I didn't want to answer the questions in comment form on YouTube because I just felt like it wasn't gonna work right, so I decided I'd just record an epilogue video and answer some questions. So it's kind of a Q&A, like an unofficial Q&A that you guys have kind of given to me. And let me say up front, this is purely a talking epilogue. There is no, I'm not going to revisit the game. There's no talk, there's no playing, rather, in this game. So if you're looking for, a renewal of a Nige story, you're going to have to wait a little while longer. But anyway, I wanted to get to it. So in the Let's Roleplay Skyrim video part 301, it was obviously the last video of the series, and we had a number of commenters leave comments, and some of them asked questions. Now, I'm not doing this so that I can talk about how great everyone says the LP is. I got a lot of positive comments, but that's not why I'm doing this. I wanted to address some questions that people left in the comments, but so I don't feel like I'm leaving anybody out. I'm going to read the comments that people posted, even if they didn't have questions. I hope that makes sense. So there are going to be a couple comments I'm going to read that don't have questions. And again, I'm not trying to make it so that I'm talking about how great the LP is, but I don't want to leave those people out when they write a comment. So anyway, first off, I'm looking on the iPad here, so I'm not actually, I can't rank. I can't rather sort the comments by how old or new they are. I'm not sure what the sorting is, but the first comment here is from T.L. McDonald, who said, "Loved the whole RPLP, Pem. Kudos to a storyline that had extra players and journals in order to further the plot, which was very well executed. A story that not only immersed the character, but those who watched as well. I look forward to Enig's future endeavors with bated breath. I love Skyrim LPs, so until Enig's return, I'll be watching your lists and waiting." Thanks for the kind words, TL, I appreciate it. Mr. Etem Sorojam said, "Well, it was a blast while it lasted. The College of Winterhold party was the best episode in my humble opinion. I can't wait for Chapter 4. I know it will not happen in a year, but still. Have fun and see your next LP soon. P.S. Did you think about a Dragon Age LP?" Yes, Dragon Age is on the list of games that I will someday LP, provided I continue doing this for a while. But I won't be doing it soon. Here's my thinking with future LPs, you guys, as far as RPG games goes. Quick digression from that, but I'm kind of wondering whether I should post this as an epilogue video to the Skyrim LP, or if I should post this in a channel update, because it kind of has some channel updatey type information in it, but it's also very, very focused on the Skyrim LP. I think I'm going to put it in the Skyrim one, and we'll just make it work. But anyway, yes, I do have a list of games that I want to LP, and in the RPG list, you have to understand there's a lot of BioWare games, and there's a lot of Bethesda games. And so when I'm doing LPs, I don't want to stack a bunch of either studio on top of each other. So for example, I don't want to do Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and then do Mass Effect and then do Dragon Age, for example. Likewise, I don't want to do Skyrim and then do Fallout and then do Oblivion, and then, so I'm trying to like kind of switch things up a little bit, and also throw in some RPGs from other studios. Like for instance, I'm playing Diablo 2 right now, obviously a Blizzard production. The Witcher is on my short list of games to play as well. So just to give you guys an idea of what I'm thinking. So Dragon Age Origins is obviously Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age 2 is BioWare game, and I want to also play Mass Effect. So what I'm saying is my next Bethesda role-playing game will probably be after a BioWare game. I'm not sure what the BioWare game will be, but that's the plan right now, is to kind of stagger them, or left foot, right foot kind of thing. and not exclusively. Again, there are other games, other studio games that I want to play, but that's kind of the plan. So Dragon Age is off in the future sometime. And plus there's all kinds of Dragon Age LPs going on right now. Variax has got one. Sorcerer Dave has got one. There are a few other people who, it's escaping my mind at the moment, who have Dragon Age LPs going on. So you're welcome to go check those out. I encourage you to, in fact. They're very well done. Tim Gable says, "Kudos, sir. Well played. Thank you." And I say to Tim, thank you. Nyessa Gaming, whose LP I recommended, Skyrim LP I recommended in the last Anaig video, says, "Farewell, Anaig. May Stendar guide you and Mara protect you, and may all the divines watch over you on this road and beyond. You may be welcomed. May you be welcomed home with open arms, and remember that there are open arms waiting to receive you in Skyrim should you wish to return someday." Thank you, Pem, for bringing us along on this journey. I've enjoyed following all the twists and turns in Anaig's story, and I wish I had started commenting earlier on. That's no worries, Nyessa, it's fine. I do have a couple, she continues rather, I do have a couple related questions for you. It's clear that you had Anaig's story planned out, at least in broad strokes. Did you anticipate what her reactions would be to everything she encountered, or did anything surprise you? Did you learn anything about her character that you weren't aware of when you started out? I'll take these one at a time. Let's see. Yes, I did have Anaig's story planned out, and as you say, in very broad strokes. Before I started the LP, I wrote maybe 2 pages, I guess, of what Anaig's backstory was, how old she was going to be, where she was coming from, the death of the King and Queen of Wherein, and how that went down, what kind of role her parents played in her life, and when they died, her apprenticeship to the court mage in the court of Wherein. And then, in addition to the backstory, I also wrote down every faction that I could recall in Skyrim, and what her attitude toward those factions would be. So, obviously, antagonistic towards vampires, antagonistic towards the Dark Brotherhood, at least initially, antagonistic towards Danger Worshippers and Necromancers, indifferent to, say, Imperials and Stormcloaks, at least in the beginning. So I kind of went through every faction that I could recall and just kind of got an idea of how she would feel about those things in the beginning, and then let the LP play out from there. And then, did I anticipate what her reactions would be to everything she encountered, or did anything surprise me? Like I said, I had a pretty good idea of how she would react to the different factions. So a lot of the quests she would kind of react to ahead of time. There were some things that surprised me, but not... Well, there were some things that surprised me in the actual Let's Play. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but... Or maybe I won't, I don't know. But it wasn't many things. It was, a few things here and there. Mainly just kind of one-off weird parts of mods or games kind of being weird. The game itself kind of being weird. It was like, huh, that was funny. I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I can't. Oh, so yeah, like the Tolfdir as Archmage thing. That surprised me. I thought that there was going to be like a whole conversation where you would have to convince him to become the Archmage, and then right after he tells me I should be Archmage, I say, no, Tolfdir, it should be you, and he's like, yeah, no problem. I've already had the tailor fit the robes to my dimensions, so that was surprising. But as far as Anaig's reactions to things she encountered, did anything surprise me? Like I said, some things surprised me, but I kind of calculated them into the LP after they surprised me, if that makes any sense, and I'll give you an example. The trip to Riften in the first act, when we killed Grelad the Kind. Anaig killing Grelad surprised me. Now, obviously, I had thought of that ahead of time and calculated it into the LP as a way for the Dark Brotherhood to come into a confrontation with Anaig. And at that point, Anaig had thought that the Dark Brotherhood was responsible for the assassination in Wherein. So obviously that was a pretty high tension moment for her. But Anaig, when I started the LP, was not a character who would just straight up and murder somebody. But when we encountered the assassin coming back from the Swindler's Den on our way back to Whiterun, and then realized we had to get the hell out of town and go to We went to Windhelm because we'd heard that the Aretino boy was trying to call the Dark Brotherhood. And so it occurred to me, like, as we were leaving Windhelm to go to Riften, because Anaig said she would check it out. She'd check it out for our Aventus and see what the story was with Grelid. It occurred to me while I was making the trip down to Riften that Anaig actually might commit a murder if she thought that it was going to make things better in the long run. So that kind of surprised me, because I thought of my character as a goody two-shoes going into the LP. Essentially, you know, even though she's a woman, I thought of her as a Boy Scout. So it was a little bit surprising to conceive of the character committing a murder and thinking it was for the best. That's just one example of something that surprised me. I'm sure that there were other things. That's the one that surprises me the most. And then the last question that Nyessa asked was, did you learn anything about her character that you weren't aware of when you started out? Yes. One, she was very, very brave. Much braver than I thought that she would be. When shit hit the fan, she didn't flinch. She just was like, this is the shit that has to get done, and I'm gonna do this shit, and damn the consequences, kind of thing. You know, whether it was facing off against the Dark Brotherhood, or basically when the college kind of told her, look, something crazy's going down, but Savos Aren and Tolfdir and Mirabelle aren't going to take care of it. This is up to you. You know, I think when I started the LP, Anaig was not the kind of character who would take on that kind of challenge herself. And by the time we got to Act 2, she was that kind of character. She organized her student friends. She, you know, had Erender come with her. She basically ran that campaign to stop Encano. So that did kind of surprise me that she was able to do that on her own. Now, I know that I planned on doing the College of Winterhold quest entirely from the get-go of the LP, but I didn't really think too much how the character was going to get there or how the character was going to react to the quest line. So while I knew that she was going to do the College of Winterhold quest, the actual way that it ended up going down did kind of surprise me. And then the same thing with the Farron plot. Once that it was exposed and she realized that she needed to join the Imperial Legion to take out Ulfric, she just did it. Like, she did the whole thing. You know, she conducted battles all across Skyrim in order to confront her, the perpetrator of the crime that she was a victim of, and gain some vengeance. So, yeah, that was a bit surprising to me, I guess, maybe that she was so resolute. Once things got bad, she didn't flinch, she kept going. Another thing that surprised me about her character that I did not expect going in is that she was much, much more cynical than I thought. Again, I said I conceived of her kind of being a Boy Scout, being very, yes sir, I'm going to do the right thing, I'm going to do my good turn daily, I'm going to help everybody that I can. But there were a lot of people that she didn't help. And there were a lot of people that she really didn't like for no more reason than just them being kind of annoying or treating her without the proper respect or deference that she thought that they should have. Coming to mind are people like Sadia or Farengar, people like that. And now, I think that that's an instance of my own personality, you know, Pem's personality, kind of bleeding into the character, because I'm kind of a pissy person like that. I don't, you know, if I met somebody like Farengar in real life, I would be like, yeah, fuck this guy. Who the fuck does he think he is? Which I think is how Anaig kind of acted. So maybe that was some of me bleeding into Anaig, which I think is, that's probably true. But it kind of surprised me that the character reflected that as much as she did. So yeah, so thanks for the kind words, Nyessa, and thanks for the questions. I hope that answers your questions. I didn't answer in the actual comment section of the video, so hopefully this video will do it for you. Monochromium says, I think for the soul gems used counter. Oh right, so in the very last episode I was looking through all of the Anaig's stats, and it said that in soul gems used she'd only used I think 2 versus having enchanted, you know, 70 something items, 79 items I think. So I was wondering, how the hell can you only use 2 soul gems but have enchanted all these items? So Monochromium responds, I think for the soul gems used counter, it lists the ones you used to charge weapons. I'm not 100% on that one, so don't quote me on it. I actually am quoting you on it, I'm sorry. But that might help clear up the confusion there. And then he continues, and just like that it's over. For now at least. I've really enjoyed what I've seen of this LP, and it's definitely given me some inspiration for my own works in the future. I should mention, I've watched Dave's, he means Sorcerer Dave's, I think, playthrough before yours, but that was mostly to see what Skyrim looked like with a bunch of mods affecting the gameplay, though I ended up getting engrossed in his character's story too recently. Yours was the first one that really drew me into the Skyrim LPing community, both for the role-playing and the people interacting to make it possible, so I have you to thank for that one. I think I'll check out a few of the LPers you mentioned over the next few days. In the meantime, great job with this LP, as I said, and I'll be looking forward to whatever game you've got lined up next. Thanks, Monochromium, I appreciate it. Lord Sarafan says, what does he say? Aw, too bad it's already over. It was an amazing journey, but there is one thing that makes this LP stand out. The music. Kudos to that. Looking forward to your next LP. Too bad I have a Mac because I'm also interested in making a modded Skyrim LP. Yeah, too bad you have a Mac. PC is sweet, man. Yeah, the music was really good, if I may say so myself. It's not any music, obviously, that I wrote. I'm just responsible for putting it all in one playlist. But, yeah, music worked really well. A lot of Crusader Kings 2, some, well, obviously a lot of Oblivion and Morrowind music in there. Some Age of Empires 3 music, which kind of got axed later on because it just was too loud and was alerting the third-party content warnings on YouTube. One Lords of the Realm 2 song, which was my favorite, personally. There was some other music in there too, but I can't recall at the moment what it Rome Total War, I think, was some battle music that I had in there. Continuing. Some random adventurer said, amazing LP, Pem. I admit I stopped watching it a while due to a combination of college kicking my ass and getting bored of Skyrim for a while, which I feel pretty ashamed of, to be honest. No need to feel ashamed. That's totally understandable. He continues. On that note, your recap this episode was just what I needed to get up to speed, and an interesting idea I've never seen before in the many, many LPs I've watched over the years. I borrowed that idea from Variax. At the end of his Oblivion LP, he did a run-through of his character's stats and quests and everything like that. And I thought that was a great way to send off the character, so I decided to do that for my Skyrim LP. So props to Variax for that. Some random adventurer continues. I have been diligently following about 3, if not more, LPs at a time for about 3 years now, whilst also binge-watching completed LPs in the meantime. By the way, Squee's Skyrim LP isn't even close to finished. He had to take a long break from it for quite a while, but he's been consistently uploading it for the last few months. That's in response to me in episode 301 of a Nig's LP saying that I thought that the Squee Skyrim LP was over. But obviously, since I haven't watched any of it because of my blackout rules that I imposed on myself, I would not have known whether it was over or continuing. So some random adventurer has corrected me on that, which I appreciate. Also, he continues, I never thought to tell you about this myself, but I started a Skyrim LP that is now over 50 episodes in. It's my first ever LP, and I haven't been all that consistent with it due to the same reasons I stopped following your LP of the game, but I've got nothing but positive feedback from the... oh god. My iPad is telling me there's more content, but it's not letting me read it. Shoot. I'm sorry, some random adventurer. I really wanted to plug your LP there. I would totally finish your comment if I didn't have to tab out of this view on my PC to read it, but my iPad is not showing me the complete comment. I don't know how to view it. Well, hopefully you didn't have too much more important things to say. But anyways, so that's another LP, Skyrim LP you could start watching. Some Random Adventurer. Check it out. Moving on. DJab1313 says, very well done with this LP, Pem. Enjoyed pretty much every minute that I watched. After all 300 episodes, what would be your highlight or favorite moment in this entire LP? Well done, sir, and thank you for this. My favorite moment, well, I think the most fun that I had in the LP was doing the party episode in Act 2. There were a few things when I started the LP that I had conceived of from the very beginning. One of them was, there were a few episodes. Obviously, I had Anig's whole backstory in mind, but there were a few specific parts of the LP that I conceived would happen. One of them was the confrontation with the Dark Brotherhood. One of them was the party in Act 2. One of them was the confrontation with Ulfric at the very end. And there was one other one. What was it? I forget. But I had a couple different things that I thought, okay, I want to get to that in the LP, and one of them was the party. And I kind of worried when I started it that I wouldn't know enough about console commands or modding in general to be able to kind of do it properly. Not modding, but managing the game, I guess. But it ended up working out, I think, pretty well. So that was a lot of fun to do. My favorite moment in the LP, if you'll let me flatter myself, the speech that I gave when Anig slew Ulfric, I think that was pretty well done. That was one of my favorite moments. And then, other than that, the moments that show up in the highlight reel are favorites of mine. Of course, Erender's crazy walk, crazy floating bicycle thingy, while also somehow masturbating in the Riverwood Sleeping Giant Inn was very, very funny. Jumping off the top of Valtheim Towers without realizing that I was going to die was pretty funny. Anytime that Peter took a swing at a bad guy and threw him into the air, that was always a highlight. Yeah, so those would be, I guess, my highlights. Probably, the ones that everybody has mentioned as being particularly good. Yeah, I can't really think of any others, but hopefully that answers your question. There's a lot, 301 episodes. There's a lot of content to go through. That's 100 plus hours of content. So there's a lot to choose from, I guess. Continuing, Mike Reynolds says, hang on one second, let me take a drink, because I'm starting to get a little parched. Okay. Mike Reynolds says, great job on a great character, and a story very well told. Always sad when an LP comes to an end, but with Anig flirting with sanguinaire vampiress throughout her life, I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of her. Hint, hint. That was me throwing the hint in there. That was not Mike. Mike continues, love the title of this last video. Full circle from Anig Lost. Parenthetically, the title of the video was Anig Found, which is another thing that I had calculated from the very beginning of the LP. Not a big thing, but it was something I had always imagined. We would go from Anig Lost to Anig Found. Mike continues, I especially liked how you made the Civil War a major focus of her story. That was a pretty brave thing to do, and a departure from what most LPers do, because in the vanilla game it's one of the most boring parts of it, and least engaging questlines to do, in my opinion. I think you pulled it off, helped in part by the overhaul mod, buggy as it was at times, but also how you interwove it into her story. I thought that was inspired, frankly, and it's the sort of dedication to the character which made your LP what it was. That you went the extra mile to add content yourself, which tied Anig to the plot and not treat her as an outsider just doing what she wanted to. And here's another instance where Mike's comment continues and my iPad is not letting me read the rest of it. He says, I wasn't sure at first how interesting, and then I have an ellipses and I can't read the rest. God damn it. Oh well. Sorry about that, Mike. I would like to read the rest of your comment. But I can't. Oh, I think if I remember correctly, he said something about how he wasn't sure that it would be interesting to have a non-dragonborn character, but it ended up being okay, I guess. Oh, and he made some comment about the fact that Anai drank so many potions every day that she probably has some water retention problems, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, it was, I from the second that I found out that there was a no Dragonborn mod, I wanted to do an LP of a character in Skyrim that was not the Dragonborn, because I don't know, maybe this sounds weird, but it kind of bugs me. Something that bugs me about Skyrim is that your character is just literally a demigod. You know, that really bothered me. The fact that your character is the Dragonborn, has shout skills, is, you know, the Greybeards want him, and the Imperials want him, and the Stormcloaks want him, and every Jarl wants him, and like, or her, I guess, you know, for that matter. But it just bugged me that you have this character who's just so awesome, because it seemed like when it comes to conquering and completing quest lines, that it goes without saying that of course this character is going to kick ass on these quest lines, you know, just because he's a freaking he's a half god, you know, he's the Dragonborn. It just seemed weird that they made the player character that great. I would much rather read or hear or see a story about an average person who's thrust into extraordinary circumstances and has to rise above them, you know, than see a story about a person who was flippin' awesome to begin with and just continues to be awesome all the time. You know, it's like the Dragonborn is Superman, and a non-Dragonborn character who has to do just as difficult a task is more like Batman, you know. Obviously, Anag didn't have the resources that, say, Bruce Wayne would have, but it kind of gets to what I'm talking about here, where, you know, Superman is a great character and a great conflict there between protecting humanity and having godlike powers. But when it comes to actual physical conflict, you know he's always going to win, right? He just punches or lifts things high in the air and he wins. He always wins. There's never any doubt, really. So it kind of makes for poor drama, I guess. Superman is like wish fulfillment. It's not drama. And that's kind of how the Dragonborn feels to me. The Dragonborn feels more like wish fulfillment than actual drama. I'd rather have a character who's challenged and doesn't have some kind of divine recourse when all else fails, you know, which the Dragonborn, I feel, does have. So yeah, from the very beginning I wanted to do an LP of a character that was not the Dragonborn, and I think Anag was kind of the culmination of that. And as I mentioned before, I would like to do a couple of follow-up LPs, another one with a warrior character who would not be the Dragonborn, and then a final one with a thievy bandit type character who would be the Dragonborn. And I will confess that the reason I want to do the thievy bandity character as the Dragonborn is something that I thought that, again, I've not yet reached it, but I have watched his introduction and I've seen some of the comments that he's left on his channel. But Sorcerer Dave, when he is doing his Claudius Skyrim Let's Play, one of the reasons that he, I believe anyway, if I'm not mistaken, one of the reasons that he chose an Imperial who was so anti-Nord was because he wanted to see what it would be like if the Dragonborn, the savior, the future savior of Skyrim, was somebody who just hated Skyrim. Like, what would that character do? How would he behave? How would this mantle of power that's been bestowed upon him, how would that affect his views? Which I think is a really cool idea. So I kind of think the same, maybe a similar thing with the final character that I would play that would be a Dragonborn, which would be, if they're a bandit or a thief, they're going to be very self-interested, very anti-helping other people, but here they are forced into a situation where they have to literally, you know, save the world. What do they do? But that's well into the future, so I digress. I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of away from myself. Continuing, let's see. Mr. Tree Dog says, "No, so sad it ends." Yes, I feel you, Mr. Tree Dog. Iruk says, "Well, I guess that's it then. Thank you very, very much for this brilliant LP. I've seen you go from 10 subscribers to 1,500 during the course of the LP, and I'd say the ridiculous pace at which your channel grew was well deserved. I quite enjoyed Anag's backstory, how it developed and how it culminated in the epic speech you delivered to Ulfric just before the landing the killing blow. Excellent, excellent stuff. Looking forward to your next LP. And to that I say thank you very much. I respect your opinion very greatly. I have seen you around ever since I first started following Variax's LPs, specifically his Skyrim and Morrowind LPs, and your opinion is one that carries a lot of weight with me because I've seen how you carry yourself in other forums, and I have a lot of respect for you, so thank you very much for that. Mark the Lonely Gamer, who is one of the LPers that I recommended in episode 301, says, amazing work, Pem. I'll no doubt rewatch all 301 episodes again. Digression for me. That's a really flattering thing to say because my favorite LPs, well, my one favorite LP ever is, I think I've said this before, Variax's Oblivion LP, and I've watched it twice now, and now that he's finished with it, he did his last stream to finish up the character a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago. So I've watched it twice. I will probably watch it a third time just because it's my favorite ever. It's so awesome. I couldn't even tell you what it is that I love about it so much, but Variax just does such a great job with that. So to hear that somebody else is going to watch the Skyrim LP a second time is very flattering to me. Mark the Lone Gamer continues. We'll be checking out your next LPs as well in anticipation of the continuation of Anaig's adventures. Thanks for the hours and hours of enjoyment. Thank you, Mark. I am really impressed by your LP, and I wish you the best of luck. I will be watching. Kadmoshi Potter says, any leaks for any new stuff? This is a question for the vid. And I responded, nope. And he said, damn, so excited. Any release dates or even any new series? Like Diablo, which I have enjoyed so far, so well. So well done, Pem. Okay, so yeah, my Diablo 2 is the next LP. That's what he's saying there. And hopefully you guys like it. It's a departure from Skyrim. It's going to be a bit more repetitive. I am worried that there might be a challenge with keeping it fresh, keeping the commentary interesting, but I'm just going to go with it for now. And if it gets lame or boring, I can always just stop it. There's nothing requiring me to finish the game other than my own personal completionist streak, you know. The Thunderboy 2000 says, Mara, protect us both, which is perfect. He's been leaving that comment on my videos ever since I picked up Arender as a follower, and it's really kind of heartwarming, actually. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's actually heartwarming to see it on my videos because it's like, yeah, Arender, like he was a big part of the LP, and that quote was a big part of the LP, so I appreciate that, Thunderboy. Thank you very much. Mayanasia says, thank you, Pem. I very much enjoyed Anaig's journey. Thank you for sticking with her to the end, and also for the effort and creativity you put into this LP. I must say I will miss my regular dose of Skyrim adventures, but it is also nice to look forward to something new. Thanks, Mayanasia. I'm glad you enjoyed it. 900 Hotch says, really enjoyed this LP. Can't wait to see what other games you will play, Pem. Thank you, 900 Hotch. Diablo 2 is up, so check that out if you haven't already. Ashley Coivisto says, farewell, Anaig. May Mara protect her through her future endeavors. Yes, she'll be back someday. She will rely upon Mara and all the other divines to protect her, I'm sure. Jack Thomas says, can't wait till you do Dragon Age. Also looking for of you doing Inquisition. Character save convert. Oh, I see, okay. Moving from Dragon Age Origins to... Is Inquisition was DLC for Origins, or was it part of Dragon Age 2? I don't know. I don't know enough about the series. Any Dragon Age LP that I do will be blind, so I don't know enough to say what Inquisition is a part of, but I'll let you guys correct me there. Jack Thomas continues, but I'm really sad to see that, the Skyrim LP has to end, but it was great. Thank you, Jack Thomas. Yes, it must end. I couldn't play Anaig forever, and by the end I was kind of getting sick of Skyrim, which is why I need a little break before continuing to Act 4. In case any of you are curious, Act 4 was not something I planned from the beginning of the LP. It's only something that kind of came up in the middle of, say, Act 3 or so, as I kind of realized that Anaig was very, very anti-vampire and had witnessed the destruction of the vigilance of Stendar and might be seeking some vengeance. So that was kind of the point where I decided, hey, you know, maybe I could do a little more with this after I've, you know, been away from it for a while and refreshed myself. And that's it. That's the end of the comments that you guys left on the episode 301 video. I just wanted to go through and answer the questions in those comments, and I didn't want to leave the people who left non-question comments because I didn't want them to feel like they were left out. I wanted to read them anyway, so you'll forgive me for the comments that were a bit, you know, self-promotional. Promotional of Pen, that is, not of the commenters themselves. I don't mind people plugging their own things on my videos. That's totally fine. But yeah, I didn't do this to toot my own horn about how great the LP was. I did it to answer some questions of people who had left them, and I didn't want to leave the people who also commented on it without asking a question out. So that's the conclusion now of this epilogue video. I hope that you have gotten some enjoyment out of it. Again, no gameplay in this one, so if you're skipping to the end to see if I actually did play any of the game, you are not missing anything. But this will be an epilogue to an Ike's LP, and you won't see anything else on this Let's Play until we resume it someday with the Dawnguard questline. Until then, everyone, take care. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you around.